Have you ever wondered where you inherited some bad behaviors in your life? Mine started in the most unlikely place, wedged within the pages of a book. As a child, my world revolved around stories. I was a kid who would lose themselves in the mystical world of Narnia or laugh lightheartedly at the cheeky pranks in Roald Dahl's The Witches. As I matured, my literary preferences evolved. By the age of 11, I found myself venturing into the adult section of the library. There I was introduced to the intriguing charm of chic-lit novels. Titles like The Dirty Girls Social Club fascinated me, and soon I found myself deeply engrossed in these tales without fully understanding the more complex themes they represented. Surprisingly, my curiosity soon led me into the captivating world of Western romances and Harlequin novels. I relished narratives of cowboys dramatically rescuing damsels, scientists creating magical love potions, and couples discovering companionship on carriage rides across the country during the gold rush. The covers may have been cheesy, but the content was riveting. They were intense, passionate, and absolutely enthralling. I noticed myself being more drawn to the parts where characters were realizing their love and affection. I was pulled towards these moments like a magnet, savoring every word. Gradually, I started trading these subtly romantic novels for a more explicit world of erotica. Safely hidden away in my room, I would read these stories under the cover of darkness. They sparked a strange, yet exciting feeling within me that I couldn't fully comprehend. But it was a feeling that piqued my interest each time I delved into a new book. I was blissfully engrossed in these intense tales, not realizing how they were subtly shaping my views on relationships and love. This formed the initial stage of my masturbation journey. Little did I realize my journey had just commenced, and it was about to become significantly more chained into this bad habit. Do you recall the exact moment when something inside you shifted? For me, it was on an evening like any other, nestled in the solitude of my new room, the light from my reading lamp highlighting the words of my current romantic novel. As I turned to the more risque scenes, the ones that had become my go-to, scenes where scientists working on a love potion in the lab would tear off their lab coats and screw next to the test tubes and Bunsen burners, couples making love on the back of their carriages as they traveled cross-country for their vacation. I experienced that familiar thrill of anticipation, but this time it was distinct. I had always felt a kind of prickling, an enjoyable sense of suspense that would rise but never truly reach its peak. But on this eventful evening, as I absorbed the passionate dialogues between the fictional lovers, the thrill amplified. There was a sudden warmth that enveloped me, a sense of expectancy like I was teetering on the brink of a cliff, and then quite abruptly I was descending, spiraling into a universe of pleasure that left me panting and grinning into the darkness of my room. The sensation was electrifying, like a strike of lightning had surged through me, leaving a path of euphoria behind. I was jubilant, intoxicated with the excitement of uncovering a new, uncharted territory. It was a secret, a gem that only I was privy to. From that night on, my journey took on a renewed fervor. I discovered a contentment in solitude, a fulfillment that had been hitherto unknown. I started to interpret my body more acutely, to value its reactions and its yearnings. Every night morphed into a chance for exploration, for revelation, for gratification. It was a personal revelation that altered my viewpoint, that made me perceive myself in a different light. I was exultant. I discovered a new kind of delight, a secret that only I was privy to. However, this personal revelation had a negative impact. It cast a shadow not just on my nights, but on my days as well. My learning of self-pleasure through books ended up shaping my understanding of myself, my sexuality, and the world around me in a distorted way. It led to unrealistic expectations and misunderstandings in my future relationships, creating a barrier to true intimacy and connection. Do you trust yourself enough to explore what feels right for you? As I stepped into adulthood, I realized that my sexual expectations had been shaped, for better or worse, by the steamy scenes I had devoured in those novels. The passionate cowboys, the love-struck scientists, the adventurous couples. They all painted a vivid picture of romance and passion in my mind, setting the bar high for my real-life experiences. But life, as it often does, had its script. When I started having intimate relationships, the reality didn't quite align with the fantasy. The expectations set by the novels were lofty, and reality often fell short, largely due to my early exposure to masturbation. It was a revelation, a coming-of-age moment that led to a whole new phase of personal exploration. I began to understand the importance of knowing one's own body, of understanding what feels right, what brings pleasure. It was not about adapting to a narrative sketched by someone else, but about carving my own path, identifying my own desires, my own rhythm. And thus my journey of exploration continued. I learned that early exposure to masturbation can set unrealistic expectations, leading to a gap between fantasy and reality. It was not just about physical pleasure, but also about self-love, about understanding and accepting oneself. Every time I confronted this gap, every time I discovered a new understanding about the mismatch, I gained confidence. Confidence that I could bring into my intimate relationships, confidence that came from knowing what I liked, what I desired. It was empowering, liberating even. And as I explored more, my understanding deepened. I learned that the mismatch between fantasy and reality is not a one-size-fits-all issue. It's a science, a process of trial and error. A process where you discover what works for you, what doesn't. A process that requires patience, understanding, and above all, a sense of adventure. Understanding the gap between fantasy and reality is indeed a science, and I am its passionate researcher, always eager to learn more about the art of self-love. This journey, this exploration is ongoing. Every day brings discoveries and new insights. And I'm here for it, ready to learn, ready to grow, ready to love myself more. For young adults exploring masturbation, prioritize understanding your own body, communicate openly about consent and boundaries, and remember that real-life experiences may differ from sensationalized depictions in literature. Masturbation is not a good thing, and if you have started, seek help and talk openly about it for you to get help.